Hello again, once again, everybody. My name is John D. Healy. People know me because I wrote this book for my friends Tony McGurn, and that's how it all started. It's this life story from 1941 up until recently. Interest in history and stuff like that in there. My sponsors are Liffey Van Lines, a moving company here in New York City, and they've been around for over 50 years. So you can't buy experience when it comes to moving. Let Liffey do the lifting, and they do moving jobs all over the city, and they also have storage and disposal of old furniture if you need that. I always have a special guest on my podcast here. It's good to talk. Today is no exception. His name is Adam Cardona. He's a business owner here in Manhattan, and we're going to be talking about money. Hello, Adam.
Hey John, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm going to give a little history first for my listeners on the
Okay.
history of currency and money. Before it started, we had a situation or a system actually called barter. By the way, one of my famous economists of all times is Adam Smith. Adam Smith was born in Scotland in 1973, and he wrote a book called The Wealth of the Nations. He's also known for creating the concept of the division of labour. Before that, people were working way, way too hard, and he came up with the concept of dividing the work down into sections and let everyone do a little bit and then get it all done. But let me go back to barter. So let's give you a simple analogy that I came up with to describe barter in a modern sense. So let's assume that I'm a farmer and I have a small farm up in Harlem. Once upon a time, Harlem was all farmland. So what do I have on my farm? Well, I have a garden to grow vegetables and potatoes. I have 12 hens and I have one rooster. I have one cow and her name is called Daisy, okay? Now, the 12 hens, they lay one egg every day, which means I have 12 eggs every day, which is too many for me, okay? Now, my cow, my nice cow, Daisy, I milk her in the morning and I milk her in the evening, and she produces a gallon of milk each time. Now, that's more milk than I consume. So what do? Okay, I come up with a plan called the barter. So I'm going to call up Elite Healers down in Park Avenue. I'm going to speak to the massage therapist there, and I want to make an appointment, but I want to pay him with barter. And he says, okay, we can do that, because he can use the milk, he can use the potatoes, and he can use the eggs. So from sitting on the stool every day milking Daisy, my back hurts, so I need a massage. So I'm going to make my way down to Elite Healers on Park Avenue with a bag of potatoes, 2 dozen eggs, and 3 bottles of milk. And the massage therapist is very happy. He brings all that home to his wife and kids, and he has a lot of kids, so he has enough food to feed them for a week. So the deal is pretty smooth. But of course, it's cumbersome to carry stuff, right? And then coins came along eventually, and they were invented in Turkey. Coins too were a good idea because it made it a little easier to do transactions. And then leave it to China, they invented paper money. And paper money is not really paper money. It's made from linen, I think, and flax. So it's a little bit tougher than paper money, but we all call it paper money. So today I'm going to move on to Adam Cardona, not Adam Smith, because Adam Smith is long past. Adam Cardona is with us. So Adam is going to bring us to the new world of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So I want to get back to Adam and see how crypto and Bitcoin would help your business, Adam.
Well, Bitcoin and crypto, it creates another means of basically taking a transaction, and everything seems to be going digital. If you look at the government and the Biden administration, they're trying to make a central bank digital currency, which is a centralized form of money. So basically you're looking at other options that are going to be similar to cash, because when you're looking at like the CBDC, it's very trackable, and some people prefer to use cash instead of using their card. So in that similar sense, having Bitcoin is like being able to use cash if we're moving into this digital age of currency.
Right. Okay, so you see, when you transform over to crypto and Bitcoin, this is going to be a plus to your business, I assume.
Yeah, well, it's providing multiple options. People always want multiple options, and one thing that I personally would like to do, as soon as the transaction time gets a little bit faster and it could keep up with credit cards, just a company holding a certain amount of Bitcoin. Like you have like Tesla that holds a certain amount of Bitcoin, other companies that hold Bitcoin. It basically is a hedge against inflation because overall, over the life of Bitcoin, it's actually made people money, even though it has down periods. But any investment's going to have down periods.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even with cash and dollars and pounds and pound sterling, of course. Of course, the UK didn't join the euro at the time. I'll come back to the euro in a moment. So, had you any challenges in setting up your Bitcoin crypto for your company?
Well, about 2 years ago, I started working with BitPay, and one thing is that we did set up like the company to have it, but transaction time was too slow and it didn't meet for the speed of business. It would still take a few minutes. One of the things that I'm waiting for, and you see the innovations like in Ethereum and everything, is they're reducing that transaction time. So when
Right.
I go to charge you, instead of it taking a few minutes, it takes a second to a few seconds at the most to see it be able to go through. So that's the challenge that I'm letting their developers work on to get better at.
Well, like everything else, we have to adopt change and accept change because change is important. We can't be stuck in the same route forever and ever. And as I mentioned, Adam Smith, he was a big advocate for that because if we didn't have Adam Smith, we'd still be working hard and all that. And he wrote the book, The Wealth of the Nations, which basically meant that by adopting new currencies and that, there was more greater wealth for everybody. And of course, big ones got bigger and bigger and bigger. And indeed, there was so much money left over in some corporations that they were able to donate and sponsor hospitals and schools and churches and do a lot of good work with the excess. And that's interesting for anyone that's into Adam Smith. Now, getting back to you again, I like the way you said the advantages there with the speed of transactions. Like, so if, like now, I know if someone pays you, I assume you don't accept a check, but if you did accept a check, it'd take a few days for it to clear, and then you have to wait for it to clear. And of course, if the check bounces, there's a fee for the bounce check, and that's not too convenient for you or indeed anyone in business. Right,
Yeah, so it's a transaction time, that's one of the things, but overall, the lifetime, it's just a great investment for a company to have.
right. Okay, that's a good point too. So it's an investment in your own company. Right. So I'm going back to talk about the transition because I remember in Ireland in 1973 we joined the European Union. In 1979 we joined the euro currency, and it took a transition period of about maybe 2 or 3 years for us to hand over our old currency, which was Irish pound notes and coins, and they were given back to the bank, and which went back to the central bank. And there was lots of time to do that. It hadn't to be done all in an instant. And even I believe today, the central bank in Ireland, if you had old Irish money, you could cash it in with the central bank and buy dollars or buy euro, okay? But that was a transition. And people did adopt to it. People got used to it. It was just something new. You went to the supermarket and you bought your groceries and you had your euro. So I assume you're going to tell me that this will be the same when I go to the supermarket with my cryptocurrency. I can buy my groceries.
Yeah, well, it is going to be the same thing, but instead of having a wallet, you'll have a digital wallet or you'll have a cold storage wallet, which are just basically ways to hold the crypto that you would use for transactions. And once that speed gets up to well, once the speed gets up to speed, so to speak,
Right.
then you'll start to see a lot of it being incorporated. And I think that that's currently what they are working on.
Right. I like that. I like that idea actually, because sometimes when you're in the grocery store and there's someone in front of you or a queue in front of you usually, and someone is paying with credit card, and they're told to enter their PIN number, they forget their PIN number, then they try it again. Then if the card is declined, so you could be waiting 5 minutes behind somebody just to get your simple transaction paid for. So there's a big advantage in that. And when you say the wallet there, I want to ask you a question about that. Do you mean like a wallet in your iPhone?
Yeah, it's like a digital wallet in your iPhone, but then they also have something called a cold storage wallet, which basically is a piece of equipment that doesn't go online and stays offline, so that way it's very hard to hack into your wallet if it's not connected to the internet. So there's the phone storage wallet, which is like run off of an app, and then
Right.
there's the cold storage, which is just offline, which is more hack proof.
Okay. And I assume they'll have the modern ways of transferring crypto from one of those to the other. So you
Yeah.
always have some crypto in your wallet, just having like like having two credit cards, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
like it's either a QR code that you can scan, or
Right.
it's a long code that you send, and then once you send that, it says, "Oh, to receive at this wallet," you confirm it, and then you hit
Right.
yes and accept, and then you wait the time, and then it goes through. It goes from, like, let's say, my wallet to your wallet.
Okay. Well, that sounds interesting. And as I said about Adam Smith, he was a big believer in that and the efficiency, and hence he came up with the concept of the division of labor. The division of labor, for example, if we were talking about, say, I mentioned Liffey van lines there, if the crew had to go up 4 flights of stairs to bring down, say, 50 boxes of files, well, two guys would go to the top and bring them down 2 flights, and two guys would go up 2 flights and bring them down the other 2 flights. And the whole job was simplified rather than two guys having to come down 4 flights each time. So you can see Adam Smith was way, way ahead of himself and educated in Scotland because he loved the universities in Scotland. Now, getting back to our crypto, I assume you can see crypto going global. So if someone's going on vacation, say to Europe, they can bring their crypto wallet with them.
Yeah, yeah, they totally can. And it's also one of the other things is there's some countries that are actually running off of and utilizing Bitcoin just for their home country's wealth to take them out of a third world country status.
Right.
I forget exactly which country it is, but there's one in South America that is actually doing that at the moment. So,
Right.
like, let's say also if I needed to leave the country, whether
Mm.
it's vacation or just moving permanently, there's a whole thing of exchanging currencies. So, like, let's say I want to move to Spain, I would have to transfer my dollars to the euro. But if I get over there and I have a certain amount in Bitcoin and they have Bitcoin set up over there, even if we're still using dollar and euros, even before I get to exchange my money, I could go get myself a meal,
Yeah.
and it's just more universal. That's
Right.
also why you look at like Elon Musk, who's talked about using Dogecoin as regular currency because Bitcoin is not inflationary, so there's never going to be more Bitcoins once they mine the total Bitcoins that are out there.
Okay. I like that concept when you mentioned about going to Spain on vacation. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I've traveled quite a bit all over the world myself, and I found at certain airports, like especially Frankfurt in Germany, there was so much transactions going on, and they upped the fees for changing your dollars to your euro. And of course, some people typically would buy more euro than they needed. So when they come back through Frankfurt, they go up to the same cash desk and they reverse it and they get double charged again for the transaction again. And the same would go with euro to dollar coming to, say, Dublin Airport to JFK. You go to the desk at Dublin Airport and you pay a fee to get
That's the
your.
other thing.
That's the other thing,
With,
right?
with
Go on.
Bitcoin, there's minimal fees when you're transferring from wallet to wallet, and they're just working on decreasing the fees.
Right.
So overall, you're going to have the speed of the transaction, and then it'll just be universal. So that way, you don't get a fee for changing currencies.
Right, okay. Well, that's interesting. So my podcast is called It's Good to Talk. My guest today is Adam Cardona. He's not new to this podcast. He's been on before talking about his massage business, sports massage and medical massage. And there's 2 podcasts on that. And I would recommend my viewers to look those up as well to find out the benefits of sports massage and medical massage, decrease in stress and blood pressure and all kinds of various health issues. And hopefully crypto will reduce the stress when we all have crypto in our wallets. So let's see what else we have to talk about, Adam, in terms of everything. How's your business going?
It's going pretty good. We're doing well. We've opened up some rooms. I've been featured in a few magazines and articles recently. So what we're doing over there is starting to get some eyeballs on it.
Okay. Well, you can put those magazines up on the screen for my viewers and
Yeah,
they
like
can
the
check.
digital like the digital journal and the LA Weekly. But I'll make sure that I give them to you so they could be in the links in the description.
Yes, people like to read stuff as well as listen to me, which is good, and that's interesting enough. I will mention to my listeners as well, if they like podcasts like this one, there are other podcasts out there. I'm a member of the IBO. Paul Finnegan has a podcast there called Centerpiece, I think, and John Lee and his friend, they do a podcast called The Irish Stew, and they're more longer podcasts than this one. I usually keep mine brief and to the point, so my attention span doesn't drain me down out of energy. So yeah, those are worth looking at, and that's a mention for the IBO. The IBO is a network. It'll be 50 years old this year, and they have a big gala dance coming up in October. If any of you Irish folks out there are listening and would like to attend, ibo.org is their website. So Adam, what else have we to say today?
Oh, one thing that's very interesting about Bitcoin is, did you know that in 2011 it was $4.60, and the last time I checked, it was like around 26k, 27k in this past week. You
Right.
know, so that's a lot of growth. That's what, 12 years, and I don't even know what that percentage is. But from $4 and change to, 20,000 plus, that's a
Yeah,
great growth.
it's a great growth. Yeah, I wish I had known about that at the time, but that's you have to be in the know, you know.
Yeah.
That you snooze, you lose. So, where can people buy crypto today if they want to get into it, say, as a new person completely?
Well, there's different exchanges, but the one, if you're in New York State, the one
Mhm.
that works is Coinbase. But there's others out there like Crypto.com, Sushi Swap. But it all depends because of the law, which exchange you can use. So Coinbase for people in New York State.
Okay, and speaking of the law for a minute, the law, can't fight City Hall. So the government is starting to ratify crypto, I guess, and legalize it and ratify it. So it will become a proper currency.
Yeah, a lot of people want to fire Gary Gensler, I think his name is, because he's holding up the Bitcoin spot ETF,
Mm.
and the more it gets into, what's the term that they use? I forget the term, but basically, the more it gets into commercial markets and more it gets utilized by banks as an investment
Yeah,
tool, the more it's going to drive the price up. That's why they call it digital gold, because there's only, I believe, 41 million Bitcoin out of, like, that's just the total supply.
right.
And so there's more millionaires out there than there are total Bitcoin. So that means at a certain point it's going to be very scarce and drive up the total cost. So
Mhm.
that's where they look at it as digital gold, and why some people want to use it, like RFK wants to use it to back up the dollar, because then it's like backed up like the way it was with gold. But then there's other coins out there like Litecoin that is basically almost like a clone of Bitcoin, except it's something on the Lightning Network that's supposed to move faster. Also has a total limited supply of coins.
Right.
So these ones that are limited, they work a bit better as an investment vehicle. So they call like Litecoin digital silver. Last time I checked, it was only $63 a coin. But both of these have come up from like pennies, and
Right.
so I just look at it like, once Bitcoin is maxed out, people are probably going to run to Litecoin to back up their currencies and everything else, because it's really hard to hack because it's decentralized. Um, it provides anonymity, so they're not looking at every single transaction. They're not like, oh, so you went here and you drank this much, you went here, you did this, you went here, and we don't know about that place. We don't like your behavior. We don't like how you gave your digital buck to this political party, and it provides that freedom that other people don't have. So I see it as like adaptation of the cell phone,
Right.
back like when the cell phones were this big, and that's where we're at.
Yeah. Well, when you mentioned the digital phones, I happened to be when I was studying marketing in Dublin. I was selected to go to Massachusetts, actually to Harvard, for a think tank for 2 weeks, and that was kind of the beginning of the digital phones as we know them.
Yeah.
And at that time, they knew then and there the digital phone was coming very, very soon. And indeed, it was my idea into the think tank pot was to make sure that they were reasonable for people to buy initially, because like so that there would be like mass out there, so the whole population would have be able to afford a digital phone, an iPhone, and they are somewhat today affordable. Like you even see homeless people now with digital phones. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, which is interesting in itself. So that's good. My
it
guest is
is.
Adam Cardona, and my podcast is called "It's Good to Talk" and it's good to listen. I'm learning a lot today, and I did do another podcast with another guy called Matthew George, and we spoke about cybersecurity. So I'd recommend my listeners to look up that because cybersecurity is so important today because of ransomware and hackers hacking big companies for more than just money, but for, well, money is the ransom part, but taking their files and hospital records and stuff like that. So people have to be aware as well with any transition. But as I said earlier on to Adam here, we have to accept change and not be afraid of it and adopt it. So, Adam, anything else to add before we wrap up?
No, I mean that pretty much covers it. I'm looking forward to the next bull market in crypto because I think that that's where all the adaptation is going to come.
Yeah.
And I really think because of the way the markets are trying to invest in it and they're having their struggles,
Mm.
that I just look forward to seeing the growth that's going to be happening in terms of all this adaptation.
Well, I feel too it'll help, like, say, with globalization. Like, say, when we joined Europe, the euro, it opened up the Irish economy to make transactions easier to buy and sell. Of course, the UK, we left, no, they left Europe, and I blame Boris Johnson for that. Not every redhead is a genius, because he left a huge market by leaving Europe, and we stayed with Europe, of course, and we're proud Europeans, and we're part of Europe now, and we're good boys. We behave ourselves in Europe, and we have, of course, the American companies came to Ireland because we were one step away from Europe. So everybody from Hewlett Packard to Dell, even to Google, they're all located in Ireland. Pfizer, of course, is there, and they've been there forever, and they plan to be there for the long term too, because of our access to the European market and English-speaking language. Thanks to the Queen of England for teaching me English. Now I speak better English than the Queen of England. So if you have anything else to add, Adam, we'll say goodbye, I guess.
Well, you can't speak English if you're dead.
So, yeah. Well, she wasn't the worst. She had a difficult family, you know.
Yeah.
So I won't dance on her grave. All right,
There
Adam.
we go.
I'm going to say Sloan, Sloan
Yep.
Awalia,
You take care now.
and Sloan before. Okay, we'll talk soon.